同床共枕30年，最后落得这种算计彼此的怀疑程度超过我们一个普通朋友。这个30万是视为苗女士和曹先生的共同支出，在法律上是这样子。你该有歉意吧？你花到哪儿了？怎么来了？这个窟窿有多大？抵的是房子，还不是闲钱。
The wife secretly used the family property as collateral to get a 300,000 yuan loan for her younger brother to do business, but within just a few days the younger brother squandered the 300,000 yuan completely, and then disappeared without a trace. When the husband found out, he was so angry he almost spat blood, and directly asked his wife for a divorce. The wife, however, shamelessly demanded that the husband leave the marriage with nothing. So what on earth is going on here?
就因为我帮我弟了。
帮你弟弟了？
对。
帮你怎么帮了？这帮弟弟没问题啊。
把房子抵押贷款呢，抵押贷款了之后，然后说了是我弟每个月还贷款，结果因为这个疫情，还有去年他们单位出了一点事儿，这个贷款没有还上。
The woman in front of us is named Miao Yenxia. She is 45 years old this year, and the man sitting opposite her is her husband, Mr. Chow. According to Ms. Miao, her younger brother's business failed some time ago, and he was left with a massive amount of debt, with creditors coming to the house every day to collect. Her younger brother had no money to repay them, so they smashed everything in the house to pieces. Anything that could be used was smashed. With no other option, her younger brother came to her, saying she should lend him 300,000 yuan, and as long as he had this 300,000 yuan, his business could turn around against the wind. Not only could he pay back what he owed others, but he could also make a big profit. But their own family did not have that much money, so Ms. Miao thought of using their own house as collateral to get a 300,000 yuan loan. She never expected that, after the younger brother got the loan, he would simply disappear without a trace. She could not just sit and watch their own house get taken back by the bank, so now Ms. Miao is using her own money to help her younger brother pay the loan. The couple's salaries are not high, and every month they have to pay more than 4,000 yuan for the younger brother, which makes an already struggling household even worse. For an ordinary family, 300,000 yuan is by no means a small amount. What makes Mr. Chow furious is that his wife took a 300,000 yuan loan with their own house as collateral to lend it to her younger brother, without even saying a word to him. The younger brother-in-law who got the loan vanished as if into thin air, but the monthly installments were not being repaid. Isn't this younger brother-in-law basically a scammer? This younger brother-in-law has always been someone who loafs around and does nothing serious all day long, yet the wife still used their family's property as collateral for her younger brother. And the wife claims that now the more than 4,000 yuan monthly payment is all being paid from her own salary, and that she hasn't used a single cent from her husband. But since they are a married couple, Ms. Miao's salary should also count as marital joint property, and all of this has been thrown in to fill the younger brother-in-law's hole, so of course Mr. Chow is furious. Mr. Chow said,
借了是3月，都开始不还了。
3个月弟弟就已经没有能力偿还了，
就开始不还了，就借了3月了之后，不还了，都开始银行催我，给我打电话催我，不让我交，催着还了。连着呢，我这样跟他说着还，最后妈妈就是说妈妈就说还，就是要打下来。
但是这个钱还是咱们夫妻的。
我前期跟他说是啥？我说你弟弟不还了行呀，咱俩就离婚了。
Mr. Chow said that some time ago his wife had discussed with him about using the house as collateral for a loan. The younger brother-in-law himself is unreliable, scamming a little here and there, with creditors blocking the front door every day to demand repayment. So he did not agree to using their own house as collateral, and even warned his wife with divorce. But his wife completely treated his words as if they were nothing, and it was not until one day when he received a call from the bank urging him to repay the loan that he found out his wife had mortgaged their family house for 300,000 yuan for the younger brother-in-law. And the younger brother-in-law only paid for 3 months before disappearing, which made Mr. Chow furious. It is obvious that this younger brother-in-law never intended to repay this loan from the beginning. The younger brother-in-law is utterly shameless, scamming money even from his own brother-in-law. And when his wife was faced with his divorce warning at the beginning, she still stubbornly acted on her own, which made Mr. Chow feel that this pair of siblings was basically teaming up to deceive him. According to Mr. Chow, this was not the first time he had been tricked by his younger brother-in-law.
那人家是过年的，年中间发了钱呢，有2-3万块钱，他就说拿他弟弟要这钱，不还这个钱呢，都说是有说给他弟弟腿打折了，这俺丈母娘俺妈，就是俺丈母娘俺妈，反正也说这个也不说这个事儿，这样他非是说是贷款，我说这钱我不能借，我不能还，出于这门没，第二天我一上班走，第二天我工资表3万块钱取了。
According to Mr. Chow, before the incident of mortgaging the house, his wife had already lent his 30,000 yuan year-end bonus to her younger brother-in-law without his consent. Because during the new year, creditors went to the younger brother-in-law's home to collect the debt, bluntly saying that if the younger brother-in-law did not repay the money, they would break his legs. Nobody knew how much money the younger brother-in-law owed outside, and the creditors even chased him back home. His own mother-in-law and wife both asked him to hand over his newly received year-end bonus to fill the younger brother-in-law's hole. Up until now, the 30,000 yuan has still not been repaid, and the wife actually went behind his back and mortgaged the family house to the bank again. The wife ignores their own family's financial situation and only thinks about her younger brother. Isn't this exactly a younger brother worshipper who sacrifices everything for her younger brother?
就是弟弟是做什么拿这个钱贷款啊？而且刚贷款3个月就还不上了，那这个如果是做生意的话，这生意可以说是失败的比较彻底啊。
失败了。
哪方面的生意啊？
这个不便说。
你请允许我有一些猜测，在外面有一些赌博，或者借一些高利贷，然后为了把那些窟窿填上，一些不正当的或者说不是特别健康的一些事情。
不健康的事情。
确实是不健康。
对。
As for what exactly the younger brother-in-law did with this money, Ms. Miao has always refused to say, only revealing to the host that this money was used for improper things. When it comes to improper things, apart from eating, drinking, visiting prostitutes and gambling, what else could it be? The host immediately understood that the younger brother-in-law was likely a gambler. If that is the case, most people know very well that once you lend money to a gambler, it is almost impossible to get it back. No wonder Mr. Chow is unwilling to use his own money to fill that hole. The hole of a gambler is something that can never be filled.
也就是说，2-3万块钱的不是第一个坑。
那2-3万块钱的是第2个坑和第3个坑啊。
前面还有。
前面还有。
行，那些先不说了。总之你不知道他弟弟到底是做什么。钱这个坑都填哪儿去了？你也不知道。
不知道。
那为什么有了3个坑都没填上情况下，这第4个坑你还要主动往里跳呢？
他非得让去弄。他那俺腿要打折了，俺妈对着我丈母娘，她要去那也哭着弄住，非得给她说住。
Mr. Chow said that this was not the first time the younger brother-in-law had dug a hole for him, but that it had happened many times. If he did not give the money, his wife would cry, make a scene, and threaten to hang herself at home, and with his mother-in-law's coercion added on, he had no choice but to give in. We can clearly hear the helplessness in Mr. Chow's tone as he says these things. Faced with the mother-in-law's family crying, making trouble, and threatening self-harm, even if he did not want to, he still had to hand over the money. But the mother-in-law's family kept asking him again and again to help them fill the hole, yet his money is also the result of his hard work, earned bit by bit, and just like that, all the money he earned was used to fill the younger brother-in-law's holes. Until this time, when his wife mortgaged their own house for a 300,000 yuan loan for the younger brother-in-law, Mr. Chow could no longer endure it. Once he could endure no more, there was no need to endure at all, so Mr. Chow directly asked his wife for a divorce.
那个时候只是希望自己的媳妇能看明白你这个弟弟到底是个什么样的人，但是没想到这就是结果，于是曹先生就真的也就心灰意冷了。看，崔老师。
是不是你要跟他谈的，离完之后把那些钱退一半给你？
不要，
你不要，
不要。等于说是退了婚了，我房子给他，我净身出户，就现在就那套房净身出户走了，我这个赡费。
We can clearly see that Mr. Chow is completely heartbroken about his wife. Mr. Chow said that under his name there are 2 properties, one will go to his daughter, and the other to his wife, and he himself can leave with nothing. But the debts that his wife created herself must be resolved by her alone, and he will not provide her with any further help. But will the wife agree to this reasonable division of property in the divorce? After all, the property that will be given to the wife still has debt attached to it, and all of that debt was caused by Ms. Miao's own younger brother, so will the wife really agree?
房子必须得过户到我名下。如果这个房子我现在还了7年贷款还到期了之后，一解押，房产是你的，我离婚证给你领了，到最后我落了啥也不是。你必须把这个房产过户。
Ms. Miao said that she can continue paying the mortgage, and she can also accept a divorce, but on the condition that the house must be transferred to her name. Because the house for which she is paying the mortgage is still under her husband's name, if she pays off the mortgage but her husband refuses to acknowledge anything, then in the end won't she end up with nothing, losing both the person and the money? We have to say, Ms. Miao's mind is busier than a wasp's nest. We can see that actually Ms. Miao does have her own concerns, because if the current situation remains unchanged and after the repayment is complete the husband regrets his promise, then Ms. Miao won't be able to get the house, and at that time there will be a lot of unnecessary trouble. Clearly, there is no longer any trust between this married couple, so will the husband agree to the wife's demand?
你要说贷款你要能过户了，我没问题，我给他过了。过了之后我不管了，反正涨了都2成了，第3成了。
就是他担心这个房子咱还完之后还是你的名下，对吧？你也觉得应该给他？
我给他。
那如果给他的话，谢律师，
写着给他呀。
我相信是有办法的。
Mr. Chow said that the house is currently under mortgage and it is impossible to process the property transfer for now. But that does not mean there is no solution. The two of them can clearly write down the ownership of this house in the divorce agreement, and once he says that this house will be given to his wife, he will definitely give it, and the situation she is worried about will never happen. Once the wife finishes paying the mortgage, the transfer of ownership can be processed directly. At this time, the lawyer present also gave some advice. As long as the divorce agreement clearly stipulates how the property is to be divided, it will be protected by law, and if Mr. Chow goes back on his word, Ms. Miao can take the divorce agreement and directly sue him. In this way, the biggest point of disagreement in their divorce has been resolved, and their marriage should also come to a complete end. Ms. Miao said that the reason she came here today was to let everyone be a witness so that her husband won't go back on his word in the future, because in her eyes, her husband is someone who cannot be trusted. Hearing this, the guest experts sitting in the audience became completely angry. The guest scolded Ms. Miao saying, "Since you already knew in advance that your younger brother was not doing any proper business, yet you still lent him the money knowing this, he really doesn't know how you have been spoiling him as an older sister all these years. Is this really helping him, or harming him? If the younger brother took this money and used it for gambling or crime, then you as his older sister would be an accomplice." Ms. Miao's excessive indulgence of her younger brother has caused her 30-plus years of marriage to fall apart. Not only does Ms. Miao show no remorse, she even blames everything on her husband. Her indulgence of her younger brother has gone far beyond her sense of responsibility toward her own family. Even when things have come to the point of divorce, Ms. Miao still acts as if she doesn't care at all, let alone feeling any guilt.
我看到苗女士对于这件事的一点歉意，你该有歉意吧？那你们的共同财产嘛，你该有歉意吧？你花到哪儿了？怎么来了？这个窟窿有多大？抵的是房子，还不是闲钱。我们一辈子，你们俩的财产估计就这2套房吧？啊，拿一套抵出去，填这个不可告人的窟窿。哎，你总要有点歉意，有个说法吧？
Even up to now, Ms. Miao has not made any statement about this matter. She has done something so foolish and shameless, yet still refuses to repent. She does not feel even a bit of guilt toward her husband. In Ms. Miao's view, her husband's contributions are all taken for granted, as if they are only natural. In her opinion, because she has been married to her husband for 30 years, has given birth to children for him, it is only right that he should hand over money, and what need is there for any apology? Even when her husband wants a divorce, Ms. Miao still does not say a single soft word. We can clearly see that the reason things have escalated to this level is also Ms. Miao reaping the consequences of her own actions.
刚刚你说了，我给他哥哥我没有一点歉意，可以说我的歉意感已经全部做到位了。我作为一个女人，一个妻子来说，我跟他了30年，到目前为止，你问他一双袜子、一个内裤洗过没？
远了，我就想知道到底有没有告诉你。
我当然我不知道，
那这都是个谜了。我说给他说了，他说他没有告知，谁也没办法求证。
Ms. Miao said that back when she brought the loan agreement for her husband to sign, he signed it without a second word. But now, he claims that he knew nothing about this matter, and she questions if he can still feel any shame saying that. Mr. Chow, however, says that his wife brought him a contract to sign, and that back then his wife told him it was a comprehensive wheat fire insurance policy, because the harvest season was approaching, and the weather was dry, and if wheat was damaged by fire there would be financial compensation, so he didn't even look at it and just signed it. He never expected that his wife would actually deceive him in order to get a loan for her younger brother. He thinks her whole family are scammers, and yet his wife claims she already told him, but in reality, he believes she is just making excuses. Mr. Chow feels very helpless about what his wife has done.
你说那件事可以，我说我知道了，我可以。最后你说你还点账也好，弄啥也好，我跟你说还是那句话，我不知道了。以后的事情我不知道了。
他说的是投资买房吗？
那他说投资买房那我也没法说。他说做生意的我还是没法说。
Although the wife does not want a divorce, when it comes to what exactly her younger brother did with the money, she still refuses to say a word. Sometimes she says her younger brother used the money to do business, and other times she says he used it to buy a house, but as for what specifically happened, Mr. Chow knows nothing at all. As for Ms. Miao, she feels that family ties are greater than love, and that even a husband of 30 years cannot compare with her own younger brother. She feels that her husband has not really lost anything, and since she has been married to him for so many years, this house should belong to her anyway, and even if she hands it over to her younger brother, it has nothing to do with her husband. The wife seems to be a little confused about the situation, because in reality she and her husband are the ones who form a family. We can see that actually the wife does not really want a divorce, but now Mr. Chow no longer cares where the money went, and all he wants is to quickly get a divorce and completely cut ties with this younger brother-obsessed wife and the shameless younger brother-in-law, and he wants no more involvement with them of any kind.
30 years of marriage have come to this point, and the saddest thing is not that the money is gone or that the house has been mortgaged, but that a man's heart has been completely worn down. Mr. Chow has held up this family for half his life, from silence to tolerance, from enduring to being pushed into the abyss again and again. It is not that he does not want to save this marriage, but that he has finally realized that his wife is beyond saving. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ms. Miao is still trapped in the obsession of, I am helping my younger brother. She carries her younger brother's mess on her shoulders, but refuses to face her own mistakes. Even now, she still believes she has done nothing wrong and keeps shifting the blame onto her husband, as if 30 years of her contribution entitle her to everything, as if marriage has never been a mutual choice between two people, but solely her husband's obligation. One is so helpless that his heart has died. The other is so stubborn that she refuses to repent. So, do you support them getting a divorce? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section. I really look forward to hearing your voice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.